No? Well, yes. Fine. Yeah. Fine. When I finish.
For now, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they happier with the sound?
I'm gonna try to fix it right now.
That would be okay.
With your sound, yeah.
For the nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, they were good.
No, they're not. Because we couldn't re-record everything else. So the children were the way giving their speeches. It was just so cavernous. That it just bounced.
We do our best. They don't understand what we go through as sound engineers.
It's a little bit.
This place isn't better.
No, it's just small.
Again, that's why I know Goldman uses the GoPro, so they can put one right there. But you have the second one, can be put straight into the stream or straight into a recording.
Well, he's going straight into the speaker, and I'll take the output from the speaker.
Nice.
We are
subscribe to the Tribune, and they send out an email. Search things, search for news, or search for particular people, whatever. I thought I remembered, but for sure. Back when I was in junior high, I went to campus for 2 years. And it was his first year at our church. We had an associate pastor. He's kind of just
No problem. Yeah, I know it can get a little confusing, but yes, everyone's meeting at the mausoleum.
I had issues with him. He was very
That's very good. Good.
Testing. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have you all be seated, please. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could all have you please seated. Before we begin today's services, I'd like to kindly remind you to silence your cell phones at this time as to not disrupt the service. Officiating today's services is Rabbi Michael Sommer.
The act of kriya, or the act of tearing, is as old as biblical times. When a loved one died back then, they would rent their clothing and pour ash upon their head. It comes forward as a ribbon that a mourner wears to show a death in the family so that all friends and relatives may approach with sympathy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Diana Emet. Blessed are you, our Lord our God, judge of truth, as we wear this ribbon to show the tear in our lives.
Esainai, Eharim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri, Esainai, Eharim, Me'ayin, Yavo Ezri, Ezri Me'im Adonai, Ose Shamayim Va'aretz, Ezri Me'im Adonai, Ose Shamayim Va'aretz.
The psalmist in those words wrote long ago, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming now and forever. Our writings teach us that a woman of strength, beauty, and kindness, who can find? She is more precious than fine gems. Her family loves and depends on her, and so they lack nothing. She does good by them, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to everyone. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her family rises up and blesses her, singing her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excelled them all. In our sadness, we celebrate a life well lived. Michelle Rovner lived the best life she knew how in her 69 years. These last years weren't easy, but Michelle was unstoppable. There is never enough time with those we loved most in the world, but this moment comes for all of us when we must grieve for our loss while remembering all that was good of our loved one. Hopefully this brings us some comfort in the time of grief. Michelle loved spending her life surrounded by family and friends, living the best life she knew how, and trying to make the world a better place. Daughter of Audrey and Marv of blessed memory, cherished sister of Rick and sister-in-law of Kay, beloved aunt of Nicole and Justin, and friend to so many. May we remember Michelle in her strength and in her best moments, and for her love for all of you. A poet wrote, if you are reading this, then I must be gone. Remember me true, my good days and bad, although I hope our memories hold more smiles than pain. Remember the days filled with laughter, so that your tears may hold some sweetness and less sorrow. I never claim perfection, although I'm still convinced I was right a lot. But please forgive me those moments when I couldn't admit I was wrong. I tried to fit so much in what felt like so little time. Life is built day upon day, where memories accumulate like fallen leaves in autumn. We keep only the most special and colorful ones, while the rest are swept away and forgotten. I'm so blessed for all my days you filled with so much color. If this is being read, and I'm off elsewhere never to return, remember my love for you more than anything else, because in the end, that is all that matters most. The Byrds made popular these ancient words of Ecclesiastes when they sang that there was a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. And now is the time we speak of Michelle's incredible life, as I call up her friend Louise to talk about Michelle.
Hello, everyone. If you don't know who I am, I'm Louise, and I have known Michelle for over 30 years. Over 30 years. People think we're from AllNet, myself and my friend Sharon, but we met her through our dear late friend Tom Kamisik, who worked for AllNet. David Mack worked at AllNet, and Michelle. And Tom used to include us in a lot of their charity events and parties and things, and that's how we got to know Michelle over the years. One of the biggest things that Tom used to do was throw these wonderful dinner parties. So to thank Tom, Michelle decided to do a dinner party. And some of you are laughing. She really tried. She wanted to do this grandiose fall dinner party. There were about a dozen people there. The funniest thing about it is the dinner went fine. A lot of people brought things, like Sharon made soup. I brought a side dish, things like that. But Michelle was handling the dessert. And she handled the dessert. David goes into the kitchen to go, I'll go get the pie for you, and I'll bring it out to the table. And all of a sudden, David shows back up in the dining room going like this. And Michelle goes, what's wrong? And he goes, I can't serve the apple pie. And she goes, well, I don't understand. It's on the counter. It's right there. How can you not serve it? And he goes, it's still frozen. And she goes, what? She goes, I took it out of the box. I put it on the counter early this afternoon. How can it be frozen? And he goes, well, you were supposed to bake it, Michelle. Dear Michelle. So nevertheless, we put it in the oven. We baked it. We had it later. Instead, we just had ice cream. So that's just one of many little adventures with her. But speaking of adventures, Sharon and I were reminiscing about our girlfriend road trip to Red Wing, Wisconsin. Beautiful little town on the cliffs of the Mississippi River. They're known for Red Wing pottery, and they have a lot of really quaint antique stores and things, and Michelle always loved to go antiquing. So we brought her up there. Little did we know, we created a monster. She was like, I love this Red Wing stuff. I love this Red Wing. And all the shop we went in, she'd try and buy something and that. So in memory of her, when you go to her home, in the living room, in the corner by the big windows, are two vases on a little stand. They're sort of golden yellow, and they're both from Red Wing. So whenever I see them, and I see my Red Wing pieces, and Sharon does too, we think of her and the trip we had up there. Two other things I wanted to mention about her that were very special. One is theater. She loved live theater, especially musical theater. Her and I had debates off and on over the years because I'm not a big musical theater person. And she's like, you have to go see this. It's beautiful. You have to go see it. So her and I would go off and go to the different theater things. I just remember seeing like Brigadoon and My Fair Lady and Camelot and a number of different ones with her. The last time her and I got to go to a play together was to see the band's Visit, which was a couple of years ago, just prior to them shutting the theaters down in Chicago because of COVID. And her and I went, and it was a lovely little play about a band that gets stranded in a small town. But I think what I remember most about Michelle seeing that play was when the play was over, the little band actually comes out on the stage and plays a set of like another 3 or 4 songs. And she just was like, oh, this is the most beautiful music. I can't believe they did this for us, a concert. Oh, this is just wonderful, wonderful. And so now whenever I see that play's playing somewhere, I think of her and thinking like, God, she just fell in love with that Middle Eastern, Turkish type of music. And that's Michelle. She liked all kind of music. She liked Tony Bennett. She liked, the Moody Blues. She liked, James Taylor and it. It's amazing. But she fell in love with that music. Finally, one of the big things I always will never forget about her is her love of holidays. And you think high holidays and family-related holidays, and I know she loved Thanksgiving, but the holidays that come to mind with me and her are New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. New Year's Eve, we must have spent, I can't even, over the 30 years we've known each other, probably a good 25 or so together with Sharon and Al. And we went, even the Millennium one, we stayed up all night so we could see the celebrations across the world. And then the next day, it sort of started a tradition of Michelle having brunch on New Year's Day. And she'd invite her mom and dad, and some friends would come by on different days and such. So there we have our bagels and lox and some eggs and things like that. And she insisted we have black-eyed peas. And Sharon and I are going, why are we having black-eyed peas? And she goes, because it's for good luck. And everything else, a lot of things had to be round. Like we had to have little round biscuits. We had to have little, and she goes, everything is for good luck. We need all the luck we can get. We're going to have good luck. Well, the funny part of the story is she serves the black-eyed peas, and her wonderful father sits down, and we pass it to him, and he goes, what's this? And we go, black-eyed. That's black-eyed peas, Dad. We don't have black-eyed peas. What are we having black-eyed peas for? What is this? And we had to explain again what it was for, and he goes, fine, and he just passed it over to Audrey. Here, you want black-eyed peas and luck here. And then finally, one of her most favorite holidays is the 4th of July. We used to go down to the Glenview Parade. We used to go to the Glenview, out to the golf course to see the fireworks. In our youth, we used to try and go downtown and see it on July 3rd and such. And then one time, we couldn't get down there. The traffic, it was all backed up. It was crazy busy. And we were with Gail. And Gail goes, I will make sure we see those fireworks. So she turns off Lakeshore Drive and she gets us on this ramp. And we pull over, and there's a half a dozen other cars there. So we sat there on the car watching the fireworks from Navy Pier and that. And then jumped back in the car before the police came and took off. And I don't know. It's just whenever I see 4th of July festivities now and fireworks, and I look up to the sky and I see the sparkle and the pretty lights, I'll think of Michelle. I hope you all think of Michelle too. That's just part of her pizzazz, her sparkle. And she'll be saying hi to all of us and thinking of us as we continue to think of her. Rest in peace, Michelle. Thank you.
I call up Michelle's friend Venetia to speak.
Oh, Michelle, gonna miss her. Oh, when Gail called me this morning, I said, Gail, I don't know if I could do it. And she said, well, Nicole and I would appreciate it if you would, speak a few words because you've spoken to us, so just come up and speak from your heart. And I thought, well, you know what? I hear Michelle telling me, what do you mean you can't? There is no such thing as can't, girl. Get up there, go out there, and do it. You know that Nike slogan, just do it? Well, that was Michelle's philosophy on life. There was nothing that was going to stop Michelle. A physical challenge was a challenge. But today, everything is an obstacle, a roadblock. People can't get a job, they can't find a job. Michelle and I see help wanted on every single window, up and down the Jewel, the street, the strip malls. What do you mean you can't get a job? Go out there and do it. My mom and I were having lunch with Michelle. It was just when COVID had opened up some of the outdoor cafes. And there was a woman at a table next to us that ordered this spectacular strawberry margarita with the umbrellas and the fruit. And Michelle looked at my mom and I and she said, "That looks delicious." Mom said, "Yeah, that does look delicious." She said, "But I know I'm not supposed to have any alcohol with the medication." My mom said, "Yeah, me too." And I said, "Well, what about we get one without the alcohol?" And Michelle said, "What fun is that?" She said, "You only go around once." So at Wildfire, outside, we ordered one regular strawberry margarita split in 3 different glasses with 3 umbrellas and all the fruit. And then 20 minutes later, we ordered a second one split 3 ways again. But Michelle never saw an obstacle as an obstacle. It was a challenge. And she was going to overcome that. And she did. She was always positive. She never complained. And that was so very inspiring to me, my mom, and my daughter. That spans 3 generations. My daughter loved musical theater. So did Michelle. They bonded at the swimming pool like you can't believe, talked about every musical available. My mom loves to cook. Michelle loves to eat. Worked out beautifully. Wonderful symbiotic relationships. And it was always a can-do. Positive, independence, and you can do it. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't. So if you really want it, go and get it. Thanks, Michelle.
I call Michelle's friend Katerina to speak.
Can you hear me okay? All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Katerina Mack, and I'm here in attendance with my brother, Andrew. And we know Michelle because of our parents, David and Jackie Mack. And they know each other for the reason of Michelle. And Michelle was actually part of their setting them up all the way back in 1983. So their friendship has spanned over the many decades. Jackie, Dave, Michelle, Sharon, and Louise, other close friends of theirs spent their city life in the neighborhood of Boys Town in Chicago. And they enjoyed holidays, hosting their gourmet club dinners that Louise mentioned, work promotions, weddings, and their even weekly Sunday cocktail hour together. Michelle was present for both of our parents' homecomings with their 3 adopted children, my older sister Julia, Andrew, and I. And that's how us kids got to begin celebrating life with Michelle. Michelle was present through all her little small and large life moments, music recitals, informal Sunday night family dinners, Ravinia concert nights, graduations, family vacations, just to name a few. Joy, Andrew, and I celebrated Michelle's bat mitzvah and her really wonderful 50th birthday party. And then as we got older, Michelle became more of a mentor and even a confidant when we didn't want to talk to our parents, and even an expert for job advice and resume proofreading. Michelle brought a lot of wisdom and joy and kindness to the very busy Mack family life. Over the more recent years, Michelle has been was an unwavering friend to Jackie and Dave with their passing of their parents, job changes, and their struggles watching 3 young adults come to terms with life. Jackie and Dave were there for Michelle with her parents passing as well. As Michelle's health declined, it made some tasks challenging but doable. But us, Max, would still go for a visit, and even if it was just to bring some lovely homemade leftovers. All the while, still remembering that life had been good to all of us. Our parents, Jackie and Dave, were able to visit Michelle before they left for their international trip. My dad told me Michelle knew that they were there because she squeezed his hand. Michelle would want my parents to go visit my sister Julia, since it's been over 3 years due to her being in the Army. Michelle loved living. Her tenacity and sparkling personality and kindness will be remembered. The Mack family is so grateful to have had her friendship over the many years and celebrations. So, Michelle, may you join Tom Kamisik and Steve Mark in peace. And Michelle will be missed, but always remembered by the Macks. Thank you.
I call up Michelle's niece, Nicole, to speak of her aunt.
Great. Thank you all for being here today on very short notice to celebrate our Aunt Michelle. I have felt overwhelmed by the love and support from all of you over the last few days and weeks. And just a sliver, I'm now certain of what my aunt felt throughout her life from everyone in attendance. Admittedly, this is a difficult loss for me to accept. My aunt always said, "Knock me down, but don't count me out." I was certain that one day we would reflect back on this as the hospitalization of May 2023, but this one proved to be insurmountable. Looking back now, the foundation of this very special relationship we had with my aunt as little kids was because it was one she nurtured so carefully. She showed up every Tuesday at Grandma and Papa's house, helped us with homework, attended our sporting events, concert recitals, participated in bedsheet tent sleepovers on Lakeshore Drive, shared her love of theater and musicals, took us to Arlington Racetrack so we could bet on horses. Being present for us was her priority. Being an aunt was her calling, and like everything in her life, whatever she did it with the purest intention and greatest dedication. As I grew older, it became my turn to nurture the relationship. Once my aunt learned to text, we checked in daily, scheduling FaceTime dinners when I wasn't nearby, and she would accompany me on the phone while I took hours-long walks through the Forest Preserve. We took driving trips to Milwaukee, Springfield, Galena, and we took over my grandfather's football pool once he passed away and rebranded ourselves as Mishnik, still never making it out of the bottom third. My Friday nights were always booked because I had a standing girls' night with my aunt and grandma where we ate dinner and played cards and caught up from the week. While always family, we were two strong, opinionated, stubborn women who simply chose to become great friends, and I genuinely enjoyed being in her company. She was an exceptional aunt, but as hard as
is to believe she was an even better daughter, the most dutiful daughter I've ever known, if I'm being honest. She retired over 13 years ago and dedicated her days to my grandparents, driving them around town, scheduling and taking them to every doctor's appointment, bringing them lunch and dinner multiple times a week, calling them twice daily, and always going to sit with my grandfather anytime my grandma left the house. She was steadfast that it was her responsibility to take care of them and make their lives easy until the very end, despite running on an empty tank. It comes as no surprise that once they peacefully passed and she tied up their loose ends, she soon followed. Her job here was done. She could finally rest, and once again with the people she loved the most. I spent some time at her place this morning. It's been a whirlwind 36 hours, and I allowed myself to start the grieving process by taking a short trip down memory lane. I went through a few bins we recently organized in her closet. She saved every drawing from our earlier school days, letters from our summers that we spent in Florida, and saved every card that me and my brother ever wrote to her. Every piece of us we ever gave her, she held on to quite firmly. It's fitting knowing she peacefully passed away holding my hand. I'm devastated to resume this life without you. I hope you enjoy the front row view of our lives, but now sitting a little bit more comfortably. I love you.
I called Michelle's friend Gail to say some words.
Before I speak on my own, I'm sharing a couple of short messages from people who couldn't be here. Jeanette Garber-Zemski connected with me on Facebook Messenger because of the post I put up, and she commented, they met in yoga in 2005 and 6, and there are other people that are going to show up today who met Michelle at a hairdresser here and there, and she made friends everywhere. Jeanette said that she handled herself with grace with health issues, and she brought Jeanette joy and always listened to her, and they also shared a love of theater. Joanne Kindler met Michelle teaching summer school after she returned from a teaching job in Kentucky. She didn't know anyone in Chicago, and Michelle took her around, I don't even remember this, with me and Mary Jo. Took her to the Wisconsin State Fair, Crate and Barrel, of course shopping had to be in there, and Lohman's. And I also have big memories of Lohman's. And not only did I learn to shop, Lohman's was you needed to have a technique in that store. But I learned at the foot of the masters. Audrey and Michelle taught me to shop at Lohman's. So that's a fond memory for Joanne. I lived my whole life in Chicago until 3.5 years ago, moving to Sarasota. And I know that I had a feeling. It was time to call Michelle, and I reached her in ICU. Maybe one of the last couple days she was able to talk. And I just got to hear her voice and then talk to Rick and Nicole to find out what was going on. And I flew in, and on the plane, a woman next to me was reading a Nora Roberts novel called Legacy. Well, that started all of these thoughts. Michelle and I met 51 years ago as sophomores in special ed and elementary education at Northern Illinois University. I still remember the instructor's name, but I don't remember much more. We came home from college, and I literally hung out at the Rovners. So I got to be with the family a lot. And I remember saying to Michelle once, your father makes so much fun of everybody. He loved to call Rick a putz, and he just had derogatory things to say about everyone. And I said, I don't think your dad likes me because he does not call me any names or tease me. And she said, no, he does. He's being polite. Lots of pictures from those days. An interesting aspect of a way that Michelle and I interacted was about Judaism. And I don't think she grew up with a lot of formal education. I don't remember the details. But I remember she walked down this really long, sad hallway in the basement of Evanston Hospital to go see my mom when we were pretty sure my mom was dying. And she thanked my mom for teaching her that you don't have to do all the rituals and do it all right. Do something that makes you feel Jewish. Just light the candles. Do one thing. And that made an impression on Michelle. And she and I had fun learning Hebrew. I helped her practice her Hebrew for her bat mitzvah. Michelle taught me little tidbits about style, because I would always think, if I'm wearing a dressy top, I have to have on dressy pants. And she said, no, no, no. It's really fun to have on jeans on the bottom and sparkle on top in your best jewelry. And to this day, I practice that, and I think of her. You probably know how much she loved decorating her apartment. I saw her April 11th, and she was already failing in front of my eyes. And she was still talking about reupholstering some chairs or some pillows. As soon as she found the right fabric. And I remember her coming to my condo, my very first condominium. I didn't buy a property until I was 41, and she walks in and she says, well, it's nice. She says, oh, but that light fixture in the hallway, that's hideous, but you can replace it. She was always direct with the truth. My only theater experience with Michelle was going to see Tina Turner. And now they're resting in peace together. Talk about a front row seat, Nicole. In this last, I arrived late Tuesday and saw Michelle Wednesday morning. Spent a very long, wonderful day in that ICU with these people in the front row. And we were visited by the chaplain, Rabbi, his first name was Chaim. And I asked, because I really wanted to know, I couldn't talk to Michelle, if she knew that she was dying. And he said she did. She was hugely resistant to the idea, but knew that was happening and asked him to pray for her. So I left the hospital at midnight, and Nicole texted, I didn't see it till 4:30, that she had died at 1:55 holding Nicole's hand. And I had spent some time on Facebook it's like a tale of two Michelles. There was healthy Michelle and all the things we did there, and then there was Michelle and all these medical challenges. And those pictures in the hallway, I'd forgotten what she looked like when she was healthy. So I spent this time on Facebook, and then I made myself go back to sleep. As I fell asleep, I had two dreams, very short. One was looking up, if you can picture, being completely surrounded by branches of very small, oval, light green leaves, like the way a weeping willow would surround you, but it was not. They were small leaves. And then that was gone. And then I pictured Michelle, healthy, younger Michelle with some variation of blonde curls. And she was laughing, and she said, what happened? And in my dream, I said, you died. I really feel like, especially this week, and what we're doing here today, for you, Michelle, is we are walking you home. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression from Ram Dass, a spiritual teacher. It's being spiritually whole, but it's also returning to your source. That's what I feel that we're doing, is returning her to her source. We don't say goodbye. One of the most memorable things that I learned in a bereavement class when my mom died was we are simply shifting from a relationship of presence to a relationship of memory. We don't say goodbye. I love you.
Michelle was a force to be reckoned with. If she liked you, she really loved you. And if she loved you, you weren't just friends, you were family. And if you were family, there was nothing she wouldn't do for you. She took such great care of her parents, and it's only fitting that she'll be interred upstairs with her mother and father, the people she felt the most responsible for, to taking care of them up until the end. And she loved taking care of all of you and being in your lives and having you in her life, and hated being taken care of, but greatly appreciated those moments when you were all there for her when she needed it most. In living, we all try to make the world a better place. We try to make a difference wherever we go. You are all Michelle's legacy. She loved sharing her life with you and sharing many laughs throughout the years. May we always remember the best of Michelle and her strength and health. May her love live on in everyone who knew her. And may her memory always be a blessing, as she was such a blessing in your lives. As I call Gail back up to read a special reading.
You're going to join me responsively, and your response is, we remember her. At the rising sun and its going down, we remember her. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember her. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now part of us as we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember her. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember her. When we have achievements that are based on hers, we remember her. And I'm going to add, when you see porcelain figures, when you are in a dark theater and suddenly the lights come up and there's applause, when you need to face a challenge, we remember her. For as long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her.
We join together in our pamphlets, reading the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I call up cantorial soloist Jane Heyman to lead us in El Malei Rachamim, our memorial prayer. We rise.
מעשה מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה. אם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים. את נשמת מרים בת משה וחותל, שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן.
Ladies and gentlemen, this now does conclude the services here in the Mausoleum Chapel. In a few moments, my colleague and I will escort the casket into the care of the cemetery workers who will make preparations for the entombment. In about 5 to 10 minutes, we will all be invited, if you choose to join us, to witness the entombment with the family. At this time, if I could have you all rise. There is an elevator, and we'll be escorted in a few moments up to the crypt where you can witness. You just need to have some time for the preparations. We'll just hang out here for the next few minutes until the cemetery worker comes back. Thank you.